Hello and welcome back to more lore and loot. Today we are finishing up our tour of Vivec. We'll be covering the Temple Canton, home of the Ordinators in Vardenfell, as well as the headquarters of the Tribunal Temple hierarchy in Vardenfell. We'll be taking a look at the Ministry of Truth, the floating moon over the Temple District, and finally, we'll be taking a quick peek at the Palace of Vivec, the ziggurat-like structure at the very south of the city. I do want to start with the Ministry of Truth first. The Ministry of Truth is a floating rock above the Temple District. You may think this is odd, and you're right, it is kind of odd. In reality, the Ministry of Truth is known as Bar Dao. According to legend, the rock was sent to strike the city of Vivec by the Daedric prince Sheogorath. According to the book The Pilgrim's Path, the moon was frozen in place by Vivec's mere gaze and a flick of his hand. A slightly different version is found in the 33rd sermon of Vivec. In this case, the moon, called Lie Rock, which the book refers to as a monster, hurls itself at Vivec City out of malice and foolishness. Nerevar was sent to the heavens to cut the rock up in pieces with an axe, but he was distracted, and during that moment, the monster made his move. However, again in this story, Vivec merely raised his hand and stopped the moon from crashing into the city. Vivec then allowed the moon to remain above the city as a warning to the citizens that, should they stop loving him, their destruction would be nigh. We will eventually enter the Ministry of Truth and explore the inside thoroughly, but for now, a quick look around the outside is all we get. Next, we'll explore the Temple Canton. Lined by two statues of Vivec, the entrance to the canton is quite the awe-inspiring sight. This isn't surprising considering this is the holiest place on the island of Vardenfell. This is also probably the most confusing place to explore in the entire city, as the inside is very maze-like. First of all, the canton is located at the southern end of the city. There is a gondola for fast travel here if you're so inclined. There are two doors that are accessible from when you approach from the north. The Hall of Wisdom is on the east, and the Hall of Justice on the west. High Fane is located up the stairs, but first the Hall of Wisdom. Okay, this is where things get a little confusing. First of all, this long hall will lead to another exit to the outside to the south. To the right here, you can reach the Hall of Justice. However, to the left is where we can reach the Vivec Library. Many tomes of wisdom and religion are located here. There's also a very important main quest related NPC that we'll meet later on. There are various sleeping quarters for the members of the temple here as well, but little of interest. The top door here, going up a few more ramps, leads to the Arccanon's quarters, so we don't want to go through here yet. We'll meet him later. Okay, back down to the main hallway. Let's head through this door and enter the Hall of Justice. As with the Hall of Wisdom, this hallway leads to the front entrance and the back entrance, and has ramps next to it to take us to different areas. Here, immediately up the ramp, we'll come across the Office of the Watch, and two high-ranking ordinators inside. Elam Andis, in particular, has a very, very interesting side quest, which we will explore in greater detail later. Though it is a side quest, it is related to the current events of the main quest, so it is a really interesting one. Terror Brerin here, on the other hand, has a personal dispute with the Archmage of the Mages Guild, and has a side quest of his own. There are some books on the table and the shelf here, but the real treasure trove of reading material is hidden underneath the carpet here. The Secret Library contains some of the most interesting books in the game, mostly ones banned by the Tribunal Temple. There are a lot of skill books here as well as an ordinator. I recommend not speaking to anyone here as they could become hostile, but read to your heart's content. Just don't take anything. We can exit the secret library by another trapdoor on the north end, but we'll circle around to it later. For now, we exit back the way we came, and we can turn right outside the Office of the Watch. This leads to the Ordinator's Barracks, which honestly doesn't have anything overly interesting. Back down the first long hall, we'll see another ramp up. This one leads to the Justice offices, where we can meet Beryl Sala, the leader of all the Ordinators in Vardenfell. Here we can see the trapdoor that leads back down to the secret library, and so we have made a complete circle here. Now, both in the Hall of Justice and the Hall of Wisdom, there are trapdoors in the main hallway that lead down to the underworks. These underworks are standard and have nothing of interest. Finally, we can head to High Fane. High Fane is the most important place in the Temple Canton, as it houses not only the leader of the entire faction, but has services for high-ranking members of the temple. Upon entering, going up these stairs, you'll see shrines to all of the saints of the tribunal religion. Each of them will grant you a blessing for a small donation. The Archcanon Tholar Sarioni is through this door. As mentioned before, this is the leader of all of the Tribunal Temple here in Vardenfell. Tholar Sarioni, of course, is the author of Sarioni's sermons, and actually plays a fairly important role in the main quest, so we'll talk to him more later. We finally reached the end of our tour. The only place left to visit is the imposing ziggurat, which is the Palace of Vivec. Up the stairs is the entrance to the chamber where Vivec resides. The rest of the structure, however, is a test. It is part of the temple quest, the Pilgrimage of the Seven Graces. This quest will take you all over Vardenfell, including the Puzzle Canal, which is located inside of the Palace of Vivec itself, underneath. Another location for this quest is located immediately outside Vivec's door, and actually there's another one under the Ministry of Truth. However, the pilgrimage quest will have to wait for another day, for it is a very long and involved one. As far as Vivec himself, his door is locked with, if I'm not mistaken, the only level 100 lock in the entire game. You need a very high security skill or a powerful open spell to get in here without permission. Archcanon Sarioni has a key that will let you in here during the main quest. And we'll have to wait until that moment to actually meet the warrior poet, the guardian god king, Vivec. Vivec is such an important figure for the lore of this game, we'll have to cover him in depth in a video dedicated entirely to him, and his story and his role in the game. And that's probably not even going to scratch the surface of his mysterious history and that of the entire tribunal. In fact, the entire history and lore behind Almsivi, the tribunal deities, is one of the most complicated and, in my opinion, interesting in the entire Elder Scrolls series. However, that brings us to the end of the tour of, and guide to, Vivec City, a large and complicated location, filled with plenty of shops and merchants, quests and quest givers, and factions to interact with. I hope you have enjoyed this tour of Vivec, and I will see you in the next episode of Lore and Loot.